Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday Talk, brought to you by Always United and sponsored by AARP Driver Safety. We thank them very much. If you want to, we would appreciate it if you'd let us know if you're here. There's a place where you could enter your name in the comment section. It'll also be available for you to have questions for any of our speakers. You can put the question there and it will be responded to at some time during our presentation. Today, our topic is on financial stability, and I am pleased to introduce our activities chair, Claudia Brooks, who will introduce our first speaker, Scott Vaughn from Cooperative Ministries.
Hi, Liz. So glad to be with you today. And I think we're going to have a really good presentation talking about things that we're all thinking about right now as we plan our 2021 and how we're going to handle our finances and our taxes for 2020. So we've got some good things going on. And I'm really happy to present talk about our first presenter, Scott Vaughn, who is one of United Way's of the Midlands Community Partners, the Cooperative Ministry. Scott is a native of Atlanta. He's a graduate of the University of Georgia. He lives in Lexington and has lived there for the past 30 years. He's been married for 35 years and has 4 grown sons. Scott is a former newspaper publisher and editor. He's worked in nonprofit communications and strategic marketing for the past 25 years. Scott joined the Cooperative Ministry in 2017 as Director of Community Awareness. And I know that, Liz, you have a good connection to the work that Scott does with one of their programs.
Yes, I've been doing it for, I guess this will be my 3rd year, to participate in the VITA program, which is Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. It's a program sponsored by IRS, and it's done across the country. But in our area, it's run through Cooperative Ministries. I can tell you that it is really rewarding. I love doing it. The people are so appreciative. I'll let Scott tell you more about it, but I wouldn't want to give it up. It really is a satisfying way to volunteer.
Thank you for being here. We'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Well, it's my privilege to be here today. I'm actually standing in for Ed Palakis, who is Director of Sustainability Services here at the Cooperative Ministry. But unfortunately, Ed is down with COVID. So please keep him in your thoughts and prayers in the days ahead. I talked to him this morning and he's feeling pretty poorly. But it's my pleasure to stand in for him today. I can never talk enough about the work of the Cooperative Ministry. And one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to start off by telling you about our 2020 impact numbers, because our impact numbers, we've just pulled those together. We do that at the start of every calendar year, just to sort of take a look back. And then I will mention 2 new sustainability services that we started toward the end of 2020 and will be coming, they really will be coming to life in 2021. And then I also want to mention just a little bit about what I know about the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program for 2021. So let's dive in here very quickly. Our community impact for 2020, we served 13,336 people, which in the face of COVID is astounding. And I'll tell you, when I saw that final number, I was a little taken back by it, because in 2019, we served 13,025 people. And in 2020, we served about 300 more than we did the previous year. And that's remarkable when you consider that in mid-March, we closed our lobby just for the safety and security of our clients and our volunteers and our staff. And so we kept coming in to the office as a staff but we had to basically adopt some creative ways to serve our clients. Since they could no longer walk in and receive face-to-face service, we served clients using the internet and using telephone and using email and using some arm's length communication in the parking lot, especially with when people would drop off their tax information for preparation. And despite all of that, we still served more people than we did the year before. So that's fabulous and astounding all at the same time. And I'll tell you what really is astounding is the community support that we have received in 2020 from our 59 church partners, from corporations, from foundations, from small businesses, and from thousands of individuals who contributed money and time to help the cooperative ministry serve people during the pandemic months of 2020. And in fact, I'll tell you, we saw several people, I would probably guess 100 or so people, who took their 2020 stimulus check and just sent the entire thing onto the cooperative ministry as a donation. So that you know, 953 payments were made to help people with rent or utility assistance, and that was up about 300 people from the year before. We served 2,107 people with food assistance and 3,260 people with free clothing for school and work. Those numbers were a little down in 2020 just because a lot of our food pantry partners closed because of they're located in churches in Columbia, and they closed because of COVID. And so we were basically, the food supply we had came from kind of a makeshift approach to our food pantries out in the community, and then we also have an emergency food pantry here that we used. 7,496 people received free tax return assistance through the VITA program. 5 people received a car that they can use for transportation to work, and then 313 volunteers, about half of whom were volunteer income tax preparation volunteers, served 9,602 hours. So it was a fantastic year. Even if you were looking at it without COVID, it was a fantastic year and could not have been possible without so much community help. 2 services, I'll mention these just briefly and then I'll jump off. One, we have started in the sustainability side of our work. We have started a new career improvement service that essentially will pay for and help the working poor, our clients, the working poor, help them get certifications, GED, expungement of misdemeanor criminal records, do those kinds of things that will help them qualify for better jobs. For example, if someone needs a plumber's license or a barber's license, any of those state licenses that you need to get a better job, we have a program now that helps the working poor obtain those special certifications needed to improve their job situation. We've also started a financial empowerment program, and this is a program that specifically takes our crisis assistance clients who have been affected by COVID, which is about 74% of our clients. It takes those clients who are interested and partners them with a certified volunteer financial counselor who meets with them weekly for up to 6 months and helps them create a household budget, a sustainable household budget, and then also helps them with improve their credit, put aside money for a savings plan, and pay their bills on time. So we're excited about those 2 services. Right now on the volunteer income tax assistance front, we are recruiting volunteers. The tax preparation season begins in February. And so we are recruiting volunteers and sites and kind of seeing how COVID will affect all of that. But at a minimum, we will do what we did last year. People can come to our parking lot and they can drop off their tax information, and we take that at arm's length, and then we get that into the hands of volunteers who complete tax returns at their home or work and communicate with clients by telephone or email, and then file those returns for people. So we're excited. We're excited about 2021. We're excited that we can just continue rocking along and helping the people in our community, standing in the gap for people who are hurting and suffering, and so it's a great place to be, and a great opportunity to serve people. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. It sounds like you have really done a lot of work through some very trying times, as we all have been through some trying times this year, but thank you for taking care of so many people.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, do you have ways that people can volunteer now?
Well, we have opened up our clothing bank to groups of 5 or less, and must wear a mask. We do provide gloves. They must wear gloves. They must wear a mask, must wear gloves. And so, yes, so just can call the office here. Groups of 5 or less can serve in the clothing bank.
All right. Well, thank you. And again, we thank you for doing the hard work and the important work that you do, and hope that so many of your co-workers will get well soon.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, because and that you stay well and healthy too.
Thank you very much
for coming along, and we appreciate your presentation today. And as we move ahead now, we have our featured speaker today, Ashleigh Brooker. And Ashleigh is thank you for coming on screen, Ashleigh. We're really glad that you are here with us. And we're glad to be able to tell everyone that you are a native of Columbia, South Carolina.
Yes.
And you received your Bachelor of Science in Finance from North Carolina A&T State University. And you have an MBA from Florida State University, and you completed your financial planner program at Oglethorpe University. Very educated young woman here.
Thank you.
And Ashleigh is a certified financial planner and a fee-only financial advisor registered with the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors. And as a fee-only financial advisor, she's personally committed to ensuring that her clients receive prudent financial advice that helps them accomplish their personal financial goals. With this vision in mind, Ashleigh started her company, A.J. Brooker Financial Associates, in 2011, so that she could provide comprehensive financial planning and investment to those that she serves. In the past, Ashleigh has been quoted in the Wall Street Journal and was a guest columnist for the state newspaper. In both publications, she discussed various topics concerning personal financial planning. She has also served as a volunteer income tax preparer for those low and moderate income families in her community through the VITA program that Scott was just talking to us about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doing that work, Ashleigh.
Thank you.
Three most important things she's told me in her life are her faith, her family, and her business. And on top of that, in her spare time, she enjoys baking to satisfy her sweet tooth, spending time with family and friends, meeting new people, and reading books that challenge her to improve in various areas of her life. Additionally, Ashleigh enjoys facilitating a workshop that she calls Wealth Building Wisdom to teach others about handling their personal finances in God's way. Ashleigh, we're so glad to have you here today, and we look forward to getting of your teaching with us, and maybe we can join you for your wealth building class one day.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here because so often when I'm asked to speak, it generally centers around investing. People want to hear you talk about investments, but it really made my heart smile when Adina reached out to me and shared that you all would like for me to come and talk about charitable giving, because a big part of what I do is I get the privilege of helping my clients be generous. And so during our time together today, I plan to walk through what you all can do as we start this new year and look forward to what type of charitable giving goals we can put in place. But then I thought it'd be nice to offer some strategies and tips for more tax efficient ways to give to charities as well. So we've got a lot of ground to cover in a short amount of time. So we'll go ahead and get started. Next slide. Before I get too far into this conversation, one of the things that I thought would be helpful to do was to give you a little bit of background so that you can put my role as a financial planner in context for this conversation. I am a financial advisor, but I'm a certified financial planner. And the distinction between the two is a lot of times when people think about financial advisor, they limit it to just investments. But with a certified financial planner, we center on our biggest priority is what is our part in helping you get towards your financial goals. So our clients come to us and talk about their hopes, dreams, and wishes. And what we do is create a game plan to get you there. So often, advisors aren't considerate of your whole financial picture. And we believe investments are important, but it's just a piece of the pie. So instead of just considering the investments, we're looking at what are you doing to protect yourself against risk through insurances, and what type of measures do you have in place to make sure that your wealth transfers to the people and causes that you care about the most if something were to happen. If you're a retiree, how do we make sure that you're able to maintain your retirement and live a life of dignity throughout the rest of your life? And if you have aspirations to help your children or your grandchildren complete college without debt, then we can help with that as well. So essentially, we look at your whole financial picture. We consider your goals and say, based on where you are, these are the steps you need to take to get from where you are to where you'd like to be. I bring all that up because the conversation that we're going to have today, when it comes to charitable giving, it encompasses a number of the different areas of your financial life, including your retirement planning, your investments, your estate plan, as well as your taxes. So all four of those areas come together so that you can work towards your goal of giving to the people, giving to the causes that you care about. So with that said, we're going to move on to the next slide. When it comes down to money, there are four things that we can do with it. We can spend it, we can save it, we can invest it, or we can donate it. You have no idea how refreshing it is to speak about the giving part today, because too often I believe we just don't have that conversation when it comes to financial planning. I believe that financial advisors a lot of times miss the boat and miss opportunities to help our clients build wealth through investments in others. I know that it may seem counterintuitive, but I firmly believe that there's something about giving to others that makes people even more wealthy. So if we're going to make giving a part of who we are, then the first place that I believe that we need to emphasize as being important is goal setting. It's the beginning of a brand new year. And this is the time when everybody decides how much weight they're going to lose and how much they're going to invest, or how often they're going to go to church this year, which is a little bit different since we're in COVID. But as you consider your 2021 goals, I challenge you to incorporate giving goals into your plans. Now, when it comes towards working towards any financial endeavor, you should always start with the end in mind. What are you trying to accomplish? What will it look like when you actually get there? Having clarity about those areas helps you craft your goals so that they're intentional. I'm sure you've all heard about SMART goals before. Those are the ones that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time specific. Once you have those SMART goals that are based on the end that you have in mind for your giving, then you'll be in a good position to begin building a planned giving strategy that takes you from where you are to where you'd like to be. So if you can move to the next slide for me. Step one in developing your planned giving strategy involves determining how much you want to give. That can be either a flat dollar amount that you decide to give, or you may decide to do it as a percentage of your income or a percentage of your wealth that you give on an annual basis. I personally prefer the percentage method of giving because it gives you the opportunity for your giving to grow over time. So let's say, for instance, you decide you're going to give a specific percentage of your wealth each year. Well, if you had a year like you did in 2020, where your investments probably grew like gangbusters, then that gives you the opportunity for your giving, your charitable giving, to increase in those years as well. And so what it does is it helps you be intentional about having a strategy in place to consistently give and to consistently give more over time, especially during the years where you're more prosperous than others, when your investments are more prosperous than others. The second step to the planned giving strategy involves deciding on a time frame. Are you the person that wants to give to the organizations that you desire while you're living? Is it something that you want to do after you pass away? Or is it something that you want to do a combination of the two? There's no right or wrong way to go about giving and determining the time frame. The key is just to get started and to do it based off of whatever your goals are. But one of the things I will do a little bit later in this conversation is walk you through a couple of options so that if you choose to give during your lifetime, you have a couple of good options to do that. But if you choose to give after your passing, we will provide options for that as well. It's my hope that you'll find a good way to marry the two that works in a way that works for you and your particular goals. Next slide, please. After you decide on an amount and a time frame for your donations, here comes the fun part. This part requires some reflection to determine what causes really resonate with you. Doing so allows you to be strategic in researching specific nonprofit organizations whose missions align with your interest. There's no shortage of worthy causes. That's why I encourage you to identify no more than a handful that really speaks to you. A good place to start is by figuring out what you are passionate about. I'll speak from my own experience to give us a little insight about why this piece of the process is so important. When I was growing up, my grandparents on both sides of my family were adamant about two things: get your education and vote. None of my grandparents had high school diplomas, and they were in their late 40s, early 50s before they could vote and feel reasonably confident that they wouldn't be killed or lose their jobs or experience any overt intimidation for exercising their right to vote. So if you fast forward to 2018, my company that I own established the Jenkins Brooker Memorial Scholarship to carry on the legacy of my grandparents who didn't have the privileges of voting and going to college. There are only two real prerequisites to apply for the scholarship that holds their namesake. You have to be a college student and you have to be a registered voter. I share that story because the things that we are passionate about can be the fuel to help you figure out how to allocate the dollars that you intend to donate each year. Because of my upbringing and what I know about education and voting rights and what that meant to my grandparents, those causes now matter to me. That's why I started the scholarship, and it's also why I consistently give to my alma mater, North Carolina A&T State University. That was the best 4 years of my life. It's also why I offer tuition reimbursement to my employees. When it comes to voting, I choose to vote every single time, but I want those who have been marginalized and discounted to understand their rights to vote and actively participate in the election process each year. That's why I was drawn to support Stacey Abrams' organization Fair Fight and join in the fight against voter suppression. Those are the few of the causes that matter to me because I know the limitations that my grandparents faced and what they went through and their neighbors and their church members to make sure that I had the privileges that I have today. I bring all of this up because you have to find your why. You have to find the causes that matter to you and the organizations whose missions move those causes forward. One of the things that I respect about the United Way is the fact that it distributes resources to a diverse group of worthy causes and provides practical ways for concerned citizens like you and I to pool our donations to support causes in our own community. Next slide. After you identify the specific organizations that you want to donate your dollars, this is where you want to get a team of professionals together. Specifically, I encourage you to work with a certified financial planner, your accountant, and an estate planning attorney. If I were you, I would encourage you to start with the CFP first, not to like say we are the be all end all, but I encourage you to start and have that conversation with your CFP first, because from that point, they understand your goals and what you're working towards, but then they can say, we need to make sure we bring this person into the conversation, or it's time for us to bring that person in the conversation, so that the three of us can coordinate together and make sure that any advice that any one of us gives to you is considerate of your whole financial picture, and they can bring up ideas and thoughts that we hadn't considered as we're making those recommendations. After all, our goal is to collaborate to build a strategy that works for you. And after that piece, all we have to do is the next step, which is make it happen. So I'm going to move to the next slide. One of the things, so we've gone through the goal setting process of the different steps in terms of figuring out how much you want to give, when you want to give, and who you want to give to, and then getting that team in place so that you can move it from a thought to an actual action. But now that we're at the point of actually giving to the organizations, how do we go about doing it? So let's suppose you are the person, and I like easy numbers, so every example that I give you today is going to start with $100,000 because I can always do the math really fast and I don't have to remember new numbers along the way. But let's suppose you decide, you know what, I've gone through that whole process. I want to give $100,000 by December 31st of this year, and you know what, I think I want to do it with the United Way. Well, once you get to that point, that is wonderful. That is fantastic. I'm sure that you could call the United Way of the Midlands today, and they would be very anxious to get your information, tell you how to make the check payable, where to mail it, and they'd be glad to hand deliver your receipt to you. But if I were your financial planner, before you start to write that check, I would smack your hand and say, hold on, is there a better way that we can do this? And the reason I say that is because what the United Way is going to do is they're going to take your donation, no matter how you give it to them, and they're going to use it to do good in the community. But what if we could give in a way that not only allows the United Way to do good, but you can get just a little bit more of a tax benefit from the way you give? Well, if that's the case, I'd rather be aware of what other options might be available to me. So we'll walk through a couple of those. The first one, that one's plain vanilla, give cash. Now, when I say give cash, I don't literally mean give cash, because I'm a huge fan of having a paper trail. So when I say give cash, I mean either write a check or you're making a donation through the website. I believe the United Way of the Midlands uses PayPal for their donations. But basically have something where you can match it up with your giving statement at the end of the year with that hard copy, whether it's a canceled check or a receipt that comes to your email. So that's the first way. The second way that you could give is, let's suppose it all comes down to $100,000 in this example. But let's suppose you have $100,000 in the bank, but you were also one of those people who just so happened to buy shares of Amazon stock back in the early 2000s, and you never sold it. Well, as a result, you probably have a ton of capital gains from your initial investment. By now, your financial advisor has probably been driving you bananas saying, Mr. Client, I know that Amazon stock has been good to you all these years, but you own way too much of it for your net worth. We really should get rid of some of it so that you don't take on too much risk. You know that she's right because she usually is, but you just don't want to sell any of it right now because you don't want to pay the capital gains taxes when you do. Well, here's an option that allows you to give to your favorite nonprofit organization like the United Way and get your annoying financial advisor off your back. The way you can do that, instead of writing the check to the United Way for the $100,000, you can actually give them the shares of your Amazon stock instead. By doing this, you make the $100,000 donation, you still get a charitable deduction, and you avoid paying capital gains taxes on your highly appreciated stock. I call that a win-win-win for everyone involved. Except Uncle Sam, who's probably not so happy, but he'll get over it. No big deal. But what if you're the person who says, you know what, Ashleigh, that sounds great, but I just don't have any highly appreciated stock. All that I have is in my old 401k and in my IRA. Do you have any cool tips for me to use? Well, guess what? It's your lucky day because I have another trick up my sleeve and it involves your traditional and rollover IRA. So when you turn 72 years old, you have to start taking money from your retirement plans like your 401ks, your TSPs, or your IRAs. And these are called required minimum distributions, or RMDs. I'll call them RMDs for the rest of the time that we're together. The problem that I find with many of my charitably inclined clients is they have to take the money out, but they don't want to take the money out because they don't need it for their day-to-day lives. You know, and I know that the only reason that you have to take money from the account is because Uncle Sam has been watching your money grow for decades, and he has been salivating as he thinks about the day that you'll finally start taking money out of the account so that you can start paying taxes on it. Fortunately for you, when faced with the tough decision today of whether to listen to Tuesday Talks hosted by the United Way or watch the facts unfold of Judge Judy, you chose the Tuesday Talks. That was a wise decision, my friend, because Judge Judy would never tell you to donate to your favorite charity by sending your RMD directly from your IRA to the United Way or the nonprofit organization of your choice. You can even do this with your church or your tithes if you choose to. And by doing it that way, Uncle Sam doesn't get 1 red cent of your distribution in taxes. This is a great giving opportunity for anyone over 70 and a half years old, especially if you don't itemize your deductions. You satisfy the RMD, you give to your charity, and you give nothing in taxes. Next slide. Before we go any further, I do have a couple of disclaimers for this strategy. The first one, number one, it can be used with your traditional or rollover IRAs. But for some reason, Congress doesn't seem to like 401ks and employer plans for this. So you can't do it from those accounts. So if you're someone who left your retirement plan with your old employer, get with your financial advisor so they can roll it over for you so that in future tax years, you'd be able to take advantage of it if this is a strategy that makes sense for you. Another one of the limitations of this strategy is there is an age requirement. This isn't for anybody who has an IRA. This is for those who are at least 70 and a half years old. So in order to do what's called a qualified charitable distribution, or QCD, that's what I just described, you need to be at least 70 and a half years old to do it. The third limitation is that there is an annual limit. You can only give up to $100,000 of your RMD towards the charitable, the QCD. So keep that in mind. For a lot of people, that doesn't impact them because their RMD is less than the $100,000. But if your RMD is greater than $100,000 and you still have a desire to give more to charity, that's where you really want to sit down with your financial planner to figure out some strategies to make that transfer happen. Not through a QCD, but through other strategies. And then the last one, this one's really important. There's a December 31st completion date on that. I emphasize the word completion. And the reason I do that is because a lot of times people wait until the last, I know you wouldn't believe this, but people wait until the last minute to do things. And so by procrastinating, what tends to happen is you may call your financial advisor on, let's say, December 10th and say, hey, I want to send $30,000 to the United Way as my QCD. Well, the account may leave your account on December 11th, but if the United Way doesn't cash the check until January 4th, then that is not a completed gift. And so what you'll want to do is make sure that you're starting well in advance of time so that the money can leave the check can leave your account, and then it gives the organization time to actually cash the check so that it can be reflected on your statement, your December 31st statement. Otherwise, if it's not done in timely fashion, then it hasn't satisfied your RMD for that year, and that can create some problems that you are not looking forward to. Next slide, please. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure to bring up today also, 2021 is a little bit of a special year where there are some tax rules that are that present some special giving opportunities for us this year. So I did want to make sure to highlight those because some of them came out of, matter of fact, all of them came out of the CARES Act of last year, from March of last year. But then with the new stimulus package that passed at the end of, December, a lot of those benefits were extended. So with that, the first one is that normally when people make charitable contributions, if you take the standard deduction, then you do not get to deduct any of your charitable contributions. Well, for this year, for 2020 and for 2021, that is different. You can deduct, if you're a single filer, you can deduct $300 for charitable contributions without itemizing. And if you are a joint filer where a married couple files a tax return, then you can deduct $600 for giving without having to itemize your deduction. The second benefit, and this one I've never seen this, not that I've seen the 300 or 600 without itemizing, but this one's a really big one. And you can, for 2020 and 2021, it's too late for 2020. If you haven't done it for 2020, time's up, but you can do it for 2021. You are able to make cash contributions up to 100% of your adjusted gross income for 2021. That's a huge giving opportunity for people who are charitably inclined. Also, along with that, this is another strategy as well. Along with that, there are unlimited charitable transfers from your IRA after 59.5 for 2021 only. So let me tell you what that means essentially. What you would do if you choose to do it, you could take out any amount of money from your IRA that you decide I want to give to charity. Take it out of your IRA, have it deposited, let's say in your checking account, turn around, write a check for that same amount to the organization of your choice, and then that would satisfy the requirement. So the distribution from the IRA would make your income go up or your adjusted gross income go up. When you write that check, for the same amount, it brings it right back down. It's as if it never happened, and there are no taxes for taking that money out to give to charity. So that's a really good opportunity for those who have large IRAs and want to use this as a year to give more than they normally do. Next slide. So give later. So the give now is for people who want to give during their lifetime. What are some options available to you? But sometimes people want to leave a legacy by donating their wealth to worthy causes after their death. So if this is you, then there are a couple of ways that you can do it. The first two kind of go hand in hand. The first one is with your beneficiary designations. You are allowed to name people or organizations as beneficiaries for your IRAs, 401ks, life insurance, annuities, all those different accounts. You're able to name charitable organizations as the beneficiaries of it. So when you pass away, it goes directly from, and you're no longer using that money, it goes directly from your account to the organizations, and they can benefit. So that's a great way to transfer wealth and continue your legacy beyond your lifetime. The second thing that you can do along those same lines is, if you have a will, you may have a favorite niece or a favorite son that you want to leave your money to, but you may say, I want to leave some to people, but there are other things that I'd like to leave to organizations that I care about as well. So if you articulate that in your will and in your legal documents, then that provides an avenue to have those assets transferred to those organizations after your passing as well. The last way that I'll explain to you is through trust. And there are certain kinds of trusts that are called charitable remainder trusts, or I'll call them CRTs throughout our conversation. But for those who are charitably savvy, there's a way that you can use this particular trust as a tool to transfer wealth to not just organizations, but to people that you care about that are important to you. I'll give you an oversimplified, and I preface it by saying this is a very oversimplified explanation of how they work. But essentially what happens is, either during your life or after your death, you transfer your assets to the trust, and then it provides income where it pays either you or your beneficiaries for a specific period of time. And then after that period of time is over, those people stop getting the payments based off of whatever you've agreed to in your documents, and whatever is left in that trust goes to the charity or charities of your choice. And so it's a really good option for those who want to make sure that specific people benefit from their wealth, but also that causes benefit from their wealth. So those are a couple of options that I wanted to bring to your attention for those who want to give and leave a legacy after their passing. Now, next slide. I made that really simple. I made that sound really simple, and I went through it really fast, but, and it can be simple, but I would be less than a professional if I did not emphasize, and I didn't say out loud right now, that I highly recommend, and I repeat, I highly recommend that you consult with the appropriate professionals before trying to pull off these strategies. Yes, these opportunities do provide really cool ways to give now and give later, but I do not recommend that you try this at home after watching YouTubeversity for a 10-minute tutorial, or for listening to me for 5 minutes and saying, hey, I want to try this on my own. No, you need to sit down with the right team of professionals, because you want to make sure that A, it's appropriate for you, and 2, that it's done properly. So that's one of the biggest things that I want to bring to your attention. Great ideas, but work with a professional to make sure that it happens. Next slide. After you've done all that, after you've come up with your goals, you've figured out your strategy, and you've executed your strategy to begin giving on a consistent basis, the one thing that I want to say is give often. Make giving a habit and a part of who you are, a part of your lifestyle, because as you reach your goal, as you begin to set goals for giving, what you're going to find is you're actually going to hit those goals. And when you hit those goals, what I challenge you to do is to revisit them and challenge yourself to do more. You will be amazed at how giving to others will enrich your life in more ways than you can ever imagine. Next slide. With the few minutes that I have left, I do want to make myself available to answer any questions. We're going to answer any that are in the chat. Claudia will share those questions with me, but if we don't get through all the questions, or if your question doesn't get answered, I did include my contact information. I just ask that you put in the subject line Tuesday Talks question, so that it'll be easily flagged for me to see it, and I can answer any that I'm not able to get to in our time together today.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thank you so much. And you do have questions, so I thought we'd get right into them. First one here is from Melanie. What questions should someone ask when searching for a CFP that is right for them? Questions of themselves and questions those they should be considering working with. And we actually had another one from Barbara asking about an estate of how do you choose a estate of planning attorney. Kind of combine.
One of the questions that I would ask when looking for a CFP is, I would ask, what kind of clients do they serve? Because what you'll find is that a lot of us are very niche in who we serve, and you want to look for someone who serves people whose interests and concerns are pretty well aligned with your own. So, for instance, if you're someone, if it's a CFP who focuses a lot on business owners and that's their market, then you would, but you're the person who's a retired teacher, then that might not be the right fit for you. So that'd be one of the questions that I ask. Who do you serve? The second question that I would ask is, that a lot of us ask is, how do you get paid, and are you a fee-only financial planner? Now, a fee-only financial planner versus someone who accepts commissions, it doesn't mean that you should go to one or the other, but it is important for you to understand how that professional is compensated, because it very well may impact the advice that you receive from him or her, simply because they would have, with the fee-only planners, it doesn't matter what advice I give you, I don't get paid more for giving you advice to do this versus that. So it puts us on the same side of the table. Whereas a lot of times with those who are getting commissions, they could make two good recommendations, but one gives them more of an incentive financially to make that recommendation over the other. So you really want to ask that question, how are they paid, and are they a fiduciary? And that really speaks to that as well. And one more thing, you can go to letsmakeaplan.org, I believe, and there's a whole list of questions, if I'm not mistaken, that everyone should ask whenever interviewing a CFP professional.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. Now, we have a question from Nicole, who says, how do I give charity from my IRA if I'm younger than 59 and a half?
Good question. You don't, Nicole. I'm sorry. A lot of people, the majority, especially for working people, a lot of times the majority of their wealth is in their IRAs, and they have a desire to give from those accounts. But unfortunately, between 59 and a half and 70 and a half, you are really limited in your options of giving directly from the IRA to your to the charities of your choice. And even with the unlimited amount, that's just a 2020 benefit that's being offered. But I'm sorry, Nicole, but get with your financial planner. They'll find other ways for you to give, but that's not the way to do it this year for you.
That's the way to do it.
No.
Okay. Well, now, and then Liz asked, how does the age 70 and a half and the age 72 rules differ?
That's a good question. And that can be confusing. So before last year, so 2020, before 2020, so let's say 2019 and before, if you were 70 and a half years old or older, you had to take a required minimum distribution from your IRAs and 401ks. Well, then the rules changed in 2020 for the 2020 tax year, and they said, okay, we're not making anyone start their required minimum distributions until age 72. But one of the things that they kept in place was, if you're 70 and a half years old and you still want to make those, and you are looking forward to making those qualified charitable distributions to your charity, then we'll still let the 70 and a half year olds do that. So the only thing that changed was when you're required to start those minimum distributions. But for those who desire to give to charities, they said, okay, we'll still let you start doing that at age 70 and a half.
Okay, so just a rule change on that, basically.
Exactly. Good old tax code.
Well, and Ed, really, we thank you very much for being here with us today. And I'm actually going to have Maria DeHart come and join us. She is with United Way of the Midlands now and has just come back since she left for some time. And she worked as a campaign director for a number of years and left and came back after that 15-year hiatus. Maria has been a professional fundraiser for over 30 years and has raised more than $33 million from individuals, families, foundations, and corporations. We're really glad to have her back. And she was selected as Outstanding Fundraiser Executive of the Year in 2015 by the Central South Carolina chapter. She's been a past president for South Carolina Plan Giving Council and past president for the Association of Fundraising Professionals in Central Carolina chapter. And she's been a past board member for the Youth Corps. Maria strongly believes her calling is to improve our community for the future generations, which she hopes to include grandchildren from her daughter one day. Maria is married with 2 children. She enjoys participating in water activities on Lake Murray and is a member of the Columbia Sailing Club. We really are glad to have her, and she, I know, appreciates your kind words about giving through United Way. So,
very much so. I am so glad to be here today with all of you. And in my 30 years of fundraising, that's probably one of the things that I'm so glad that you touched on, is that you can continue to support United Way and your charity of choice even after you pass, through legacy giving. And it's not a subject that's talked about very often, but it's a very important subject, because if you have been a donor for a long time to United Way and know the good work that we're doing and that we are making our community better for future generations, this is a wonderful way to leave a legacy for your community in your giving, through your philanthropic giving. So United Way does have a legacy society, and I am happy to talk with anyone that would like to learn more about it and how we can work out a plan for you to be able to leave your legacy here. So please give me a call. My contact information will be on the end of this meeting, and I'd love to hear from someone.
well, and thank you. I want to thank you both. And Adina, can you put up Maria's? So you now have information from 2 strong people who can either help you together to make some good choices about your giving, either now and in the future. So I want to thank both of you for being here. And Maria, welcome back to United Way.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah. And Liz?
I'm not. Oh, hey, that was a great presentation, Ashleigh. Thank you. And I had no idea about this rule that if you were 59 and a half, you could donate as much as you want this 1 year out of your IRA. But so that's really good to know. And we'll try to make sure all of our members know that. I hope you'll all be able to join us for the next Tuesday talk. We're very excited about that. That will be, as you can see, February 23rd at noon. We've got Linda Bell, Dr. Linda Bell, who I know you have all seen on television since March over and over again. She's doing a terrific job, and she'll give us some more good information about COVID-19. So be sure to do that. I want to thank AARP once again for sponsoring this program. And I want to thank everybody for coming, and everybody take care, get your vaccine as soon as you can, and come back to see us on the next Tuesday Talk.
And thank you, Liz. We've got some good ones planned for the future. And thank you for your leadership with Always United. And we want to thank Adina Rice, who is the staff person who works with us to put all these together. She does a really good job. Everybody have a good. Thank you, Adina.
Hey, thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.